Next we learn about this theories of biological evolution. Lamarck's theory. Jean-Baptiste G. Lamarck was the first to postulate the theory of evolution in his famous book Philosophic Zoological in the year 1809. So the two principles of Lamarckism theory are the use of use and disuse. Organs that are used often will increase in size and those that are not used will degenerate. Neck in giraffe is an example of use and absence of the limbs in snakes is an example for disuse theory. The theory of inheritance of acquired characters. The characters that are developed during the lifetime of an organism are called acquired characters and these are then inherited. The main objection of this Lamarckism to Lamarckism theory of acquired characters was disproved by August Weismann, who conducted the experiments on maize for 20 generations by cutting their tails and breeding them. All maize born were with tail. Weismann proved that change in the somatoplasm will not be transferred into this next generation, but changes in the germplasm will be inherited. So I will explain for that in the theories of biological evolution, Lamarck's. So it is also called this Lamarck's theory. Jean-Baptiste D. Lamarck, the French naturalist, he published in 1809. So Philosophic Zoological. So they explain this Lamarckism. So earliest botanists up to age of 50. So first who proposed the evolution as general phenomena and first to give the formal theory about evolution. So what is the Lamarckism? Internal force of life tend to increase size of organisms. Direct environmental effect over living organisms. Similarly, use and disuse organs, inheritance of these characters. So acquired characters during the lifetime are inherited to the next generation and this lead to this continuous development. Change in the environmental conditions directly affect the organisms and they change accordingly to live perfectly to survive in such conditions. So organs developed more than they are used more. So organs developed more than they are used. So it can be use theory. It can be use theory. It is use theory for the example neck in the giraffe. So next the continually organs become reduced or wasting years due to disuse. So for the examples of the giraffe, duckworms, wading birds, legs like this, janakans, snake legs. Sorry, understand? So main objections of this Lamarckism. So the August Weismann is conducted this one experiment. So in the 20th generations for the maize, cutting the tail part. So Weismann proved that this cutting the tail part, it will be breeding that. Will be breeding. So will be born. So a maize born with tail. Born with tail. So the Weismann proved that the August Weismann, who conducted the August. So you have these two scientists. August conducted this maize and Weismann proved that cytoplasm giving this somatoplasm and the germplasm. Somatoplasm is not transferred to this genetic information from this cell to cell. So the germplasm only inherited to this inherited to this cell to cell. So next one is a NeoLamarckism. The followers of the Lamarck's NeoLamarckists like Cope, Absman, Backyard and Spencer tried to explain the Lamarck's theory on a more scientific basis. They considered that the adaptations are universal. Organisms acquire the new structures and due to their adaptation to change the environmental conditions. They argued that external conditions stimulate the somatic cells to produce the certain segregations which reach the sex cells through the blood and bring about the variations of the offspring. So Darwin's theories of natural selection. Charles Darwin explained the theory of evolution in his book The Origin of Species by Natural Selection. During his journey around the earth, he made extensive observations of the plants and animals. He noted a huge varieties and remarkable similarities among organisms and their adaptive features to cope with their environment. He proved that fittest organisms can survive and leave more progeny than the unfit one through the natural selection. So some of the several facts is observed in this that So first we learn about this NeoLamarckism. So Koch, Conrad and Bactier, Spencer and MC Braid tried to support the Lamarckism in this light of this neo-advancement and called this effect of NeoLamarckism. They did experiments on fur of these animals in the different temperatures conditions and concluded that fur develops in this cold areas while disappears in warm areas. So the fur is developed in cold areas, disappears in warm areas. So the organisms occurs a new stages, that is the fur development in cold areas. So disappears in warm. Change the environmental conditions. So organ for this external conditions stimulate the cells to produce the secretions. So due to this they reach the sex cells. So there is a support of this McDougall learning experiments and the rat F.E. Sumber grew the maize in the different temperature conditions. So in this lids kept warm and cold blooded in different temperatures. So based on this only that this scientists are based on that in the environmental changes in the animals. So how to adapted in this environmental changes, how to adapted the animals in the environmental changes. Next, Darwin's theory of natural selection. So some factors, overproduction and productivity of this all living organisms increase the population in larger number. For example, salmon fish produces about 28 million eggs during the breeding season, and if all of them catch, the seas could be filled with salmon in few generations. Elephant, the slowest breeder that can produce 6 young ones in its lifetime, so can produce 6 million dozen and at the end of this 750 years in the absence of this any check. So population increases geometric. So what is the two examples check here? So it's a Foster ratio in that. Foster ratio and the slowest ratio. So in the Foster ratio, in that all the living organisms increase the population. So because of this geometric, the population increases. It is a geometric one. So two examples are take here. So one is a salmon fish. So produce that 25 million years eggs. 25 million years eggs in the breeding year season. So you have to just imagine. So the sea full of this salmon fishes. Few generations are there. So it could be filled with the few generations are there. So do you know that the elephant is the slowest breeder. Elephant is the slowest breeder. So it is that 6 young ones are in this lifetime can produce 6 young ones. So only this 6 young ones in this lifetime. So produce 6 million descendants at the end of the 750 years in the absence of any check. So that is only this 6 young ones are produced in this elephant. So food. Next one it is the struggle for extents. So organisms struggle for food, space and mat. As this becomes a limiting factor, competition exists among the members of this population. Darwin denoted the struggle for extents in 3 ways. Intraspecific struggles between the same species for food, space and mate. Interspecific struggles with the different species for food and space. Struggles with the environment to cope with the climatic variations, flood, earthquakes and drought, etc. So struggle for extension, it can be classified into this intra-environmental factors. So struggle for this, the piece of meat. The competition between these two groups like this tiger and lion in this piece of the meat. So the organism struggle for this food, space and mate. So it is a limiting factor. So competition exists in this two groups. So they can be classified into intra and environmental struggle for that. So intraspecific means same species is the struggle for this food, space and mat. So interspecific means it is a different species for this in the small piece of the small piece of the meat. Struggle for environment to cope that climatic conditions, climatic variations, flood, earthquakes, drought, etc. So next one is the universal occurrence of these variations. No two individuals are alike. So they are variations even in identical twins. Even the children are born of the same parent, different in color, height, behavior, etc. The useful variations found in an organism help them to overcome the struggle, and such variations are passed on to the next generation. So do you know that? So universe is not alike. Universe is not alike. So that means that all the individuals are not like. So number of two individuals are alike. So the variations are this. You see that in this in our home. So two children are the same parent, but the two children are different in color, different characters, different behavior, different height, so etc. So the useful variations of that. So it's a point out of that in the organisms to overcome this struggle of extensions. Struggle of extensions is passed on to this one generation to this another generation. So these variations occurs in this continuous and discontinuous. So continuous means it is slow. So it occurs to this recombinations. Discontinuous is called it is a fast one. So it goes to the mutations. So next, origin of species by natural selections. According to Darwin, nature is the most powerful selective force. He compared the origin of species by natural selection to a small isolated group. Darwin believed that the struggle of extensions resulted in the survival of the fittest. Such organisms become better adapted to the changed environment. So natural selection. Natural selection is the survival of the fittest that the nature selected. So nature it can select. Nature selected which organism is survival, which organism is not survival. So the fitness going to survive those changed conditions. Nature selected those characters is fitted most suitable in that conditions. So ingredients of this useful variation. Ingredients is the useful variations. So what is the objections in this Darwinism? Some of the objections. So Darwin failed to explain. Darwin failed to explain the mechanism of variations. How do this mechanism takes place? He is not explained. So the Darwin. This mechanism is failed. Darwinism explained the survival of the fitness, but not for the arrival of the fitness. So only explained that the survival. So not explained. So why it is not explained in this arrival of the fitness? So he focused on the small fattening variations that are mostly not heritable. So you are not only this a small fattening variations. So you are taking this a large number of these variations he is not taking. He did not distinguish between the somatic and germinal variations. He is not distinguished, and also this explained are not germinal variations. So you not explain the occurrence of the vestigial organs, over specialization, and some organs large like tusk in extinct mammoths, oversized antlers in the extinct iris, deer, etc. So you are not explaining it is a fossilization. So the vestigial organs, so which is use and disuse, all the things it can be explained. But it is the vestigial organs and specialization is not explained. Is not explained in that. In that the theory, in that the Darwin's natural selection. So next move to this Neo-Darwinism. Next move to this Neo-Darwinism.